let's get into a sort of main event in my episodes, is going on to another 5 of my top 100 films of all time, my top 100. We're going 55 through 51. We left off at 56, I believe, and now we're going to 55 and 51. Now, I want to just go over a quick disclaimer. I do this before I run down every 5 of my top 100. All these films have the movie magic. They all have my Mikey's movie magic. Obviously, if they're my top 100 films of all time, they're obviously going to all have my movie magic. But also, I'm just not going to go into depth with all these movies with, like, you know, reviews and stuff. I'll probably like say 1 or 2 things that I really love about them and why they're in my list and whether they're going to rise and fall. And also, this is just my opinion. Like, this is not objective fact. These are the 100 best films ever made, and there's no other, 100 films that are better than these. This is my opinion. This is not objective fact. Just keep that in mind when you're, watching these. But anyway, so let's just get into number 55 here, and number 55 goes to a recent film. I think it came out in 2014. It's called Whiplash. That's right, Whiplash stars Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons, about a young man who goes to a music school. I forget exactly what the music school is called, but he enters a jazz band as a drummer, and the jazz band conductor is played by J.K. Simmons, and it's one of the most intense films that you could probably see. Some of the best scenes that you'll ever see, and I think it has one of the greatest endings I have ever seen out of a film. And it's also kind of ambiguous because it can kind of be taken one way or the other. You can view it as a good ending, but it also, the director has actually spoken out that the ending of this one is actually really dark to him. So, I mean, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone because this is a more recent film. I don't think a lot of people have seen this. I mean, it was a pretty big deal when it came out in 2014 amongst, the film community. I mean, this one is kind of almost, it topped a lot of lists for, like, even number ones of the year, and it was definitely my favorite film of the year. Whiplash was awesome, and it came out in such a phenomenal year for movies. I think 2014, right? I believe. Let's just check real quick here. I believe it came out in 2014. Does it say? Yeah, 2014, October 10th. Yeah, that was a huge year for film. I mean, talking to a couple of films that made my top 100 came out in 2014. It was a really great year. That was kind of the year that cemented my love for movies. But yeah, number 55 goes to Whiplash. Now, moving on to another film that came out a year before in 2013, is number 54 is Prisoners. Yeah, Prisoners. Denis Villeneuve's Prisoners. Probably his best film other than Blade Runner 2049, in my opinion. So that kind of spoils, that Blade Runner 2049 is kind of high on this list. But anyway, we're not talking about 2049, we're talking about Prisoners. Now, this film was my first ever introduction to Denis Villeneuve, the director. He is, if you don't know who he is, he's directed this movie, like I said, Blade Runner 2049, Sicario, Arrival, a smaller film called Enemy, which is one of the weirdest films and has one of the scariest endings I've ever fucking seen in my life. But good movie. But yeah, and he's directing the Dune film, the Dune remake, which I believe is going to be fucking incredible. But yeah, I mean, again, I'm probably going to be talking about that film, the whole Dune as a franchise, I guess, when that trailer drops. I'm probably going to do a Why I Love episode on Dune, because Dune is the shit, and I think his Dune remake is going to be great. But this put me on Denis Villeneuve. This is a really dark film, but has some of the best acting, I believe, of all time, and has some of the best writing of all time. Just the way the story goes and the way it ends up, and has the perfect ending to it as well. And just the feel. He just captures the feel and the tone. He just understands atmosphere very well. I think probably more than any other director working today, and that's saying something. I mean, that's more than Nolan, Spielberg, Scorsese, Tarantino. I think Denis just understands the concept of capturing atmosphere more than anyone else that I've ever seen from a director standpoint, and just the talent that he has around him, and he just, oh man, he gets the best out of everyone. You know, he has Roger Deakins as a cinematographer. I don't know if he has Roger Deakins as a cinematographer for the Dune film. I don't believe so, but he did for 2049, and he did for this film, I believe. So yeah. If you haven't seen Prisoners, again, it's a really dark story. I mean, it's about young girls being abducted and, people trying to find them. It's a really dark, fucked up story, but it's a really good one, and it's worth seeing if that, intrigues you any. And if you're a fan of Denis Villeneuve, you've seen this film. I mean, come on now. In my personal opinion, it's his best, other than 2049, but that's my personal opinion. Okay, so moving on to number 53, I think I mentioned Christopher Nolan, so here he is again on this list. I'm going The Prestige for number 53, yes, that film starring Hugh Jackman. Also, he stars in Prisoners previously, so it's another connection with these two films, but, it has, Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale. They're two rival magicians. If you haven't seen The Prestige, do yourself a fucking favor and watch The Prestige. Has one of the craziest endings, crazy twist endings of all time. I'm looking at the fucking tomato meter, and it's actually pretty different. It has 75% on Rotten Tomatoes, but 92% audience score. I would go with the audience score on this one. I don't know who's not liking The Prestige. And just, he does a phenomenal job of making the title of the film incredibly relevant to the story, because the whole concept of The Prestige is the reveal, Michael Caine is narrating the story at the very beginning, and he's describing the format of, a magic trick. How it's important not just to make something disappear, but you have to bring it back. And that is what The Prestige refers to. So it's just filmmaking at its best, and just the directing and just the way, again, capturing the time is really cool. And just the film can be really intense at times, and both Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale are phenomenal. It's one of my favorite performances by both of the actors. I mean, there's a reason why this film is really high on my list. And if you're a Nolan fan, if you haven't seen this one, what are you doing? Definitely check this one out. I think this was before Batman Begins, I believe. So, yeah. Nolan was on the come up with this one, and I think this one was highly missed as well. So, yeah, definitely check this one out if you haven't. So, yeah, moving on up to number 52, we have a film by the Coen brothers, Joel and Ethan Coen. We have No Country for Old Men. Now, this film, again, is really dark, very graphic at times, possibly one of the most intense films I've ever seen. This film does a really interesting choice in having absolutely no musical score. There's literally no music in this film, I believe. I'm almost positive there's no musical tracks, which just it adds this certain intensity to it. I don't know. It's just like it just seems like there's no breathing almost with this film. And this really put Javier Bardem on the map. This is probably one of the most iconic villain performances of all time. I think this is one of the most iconic villains of all time, Anton Chigurh. I mean, holy shit, man. He is fucking scary in this film, man. It's almost like a horror movie character. He's almost supernatural in his ability to just fucking kill people. But yeah, so definitely a great film, a really great concept too. Great ending, very surprising. The story, not a typical story especially dealing with the main characters and their fates. Yeah, spoiler alert, I guess. But yeah, if you haven't seen No Country for Old Men, definitely check it out. It stands up. I mean, again, it came out in 2007, which is not that long ago. But definitely seems like the critics like it a little bit more, but the audience score still likes it. Audience score is 86%, and tomato meter is 93%. Definitely agree with the critics with this one. This film is really great, and a really great Coen Brothers film. Surprisingly, incredibly intense. So yeah, definitely check this one out. So moving on to another film that has a similar type of reception in terms of Rotten Tomatoes, also has the title, the word men in the title, and we're going for a hard sci-fi film, one of my favorite genres, and we are going with Children of Men for number 51. Definitely one of the darkest films you can watch, but, I mean, one of the films that is really dark but also has a really uplifting and hopeful ending. So, again, it fits that hard sci-fi genre, so that could turn some people away, but hopefully it doesn't, because this film is incredibly special. Has some of the most iconic scenes in film history. You know, those really long one takes that are really intense. I mean, I think a lot of people have seen that car scene, the one the camera's in the car and it's like revolving around all the characters and shit's, happening around them. And just the ending sequence, the ending sequence to this film is mind-blowing. How they did it. How Alfonso Cuarón did this. He directs it. And yeah, just the shots that he gets. It's very beautiful, and it's in its dark dystopian atmosphere. And especially at the very end, it's a very hopeful end, but it's a very intense film. It's very bare knuckled type of story. Clive Owen's best performance, in my opinion. A lot of really good actors are in this. I mean, you have Clive Owen, Julianne Moore, Michael Caine, Chiwetel Ejiofor before 12 Years a Slave, before he was big. Charlie Hunnam, I believe, before Sons of Anarchy as well. So there's a lot of really good acting talent in here, and I don't understand why people don't like this film. But I was just like rating a rotten score already. I was like, you know what? Your opinion doesn't fucking matter. You don't like Children of Men. It's phenomenal. There's a reason why it's 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. So yeah, that's the next 5 of my list. I didn't really talk about whether they're gonna rise and fall in the future, because we're kind of getting to the point of my list where they're all pretty set in stone. When you get to those like mid 50s down, I mean, maybe they'll like change a spot here or there, but they're all pretty set in stone that they're gonna be in my top 100. They're my top 100 films of all time. We're getting to the real heavy hitters. I mean, especially with this list. I mean, holy shit! I watch these movies. I revisit these movies regularly. So, yeah. If you haven't seen any of them, do yourself a favor, man. Like, don't miss these. So that was my next 5 of my top 100, number 55 through number 51. Hello, thanks for watching that clip of my episode of Nerd Out Sanctuary. I appreciate you watching. If you don't know, this is a video podcast about, movies, TV, video games, other types of entertainment, comic books, novels, maybe occasionally. I don't know, I don't really read that much, but when I do, I want to talk about it. So yeah, just know that there's a lot more of these, and I appreciate you if you give me a like and subscribe and watch more. If you're just if you're watching here on YouTube, know that this is also a podcast, an audio podcast. I'm on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Play, so you can download my podcast episodes, listen to them while you're driving in the car, taking a shit, making dinner, doing your laundry, or whatever, when you're at work, when you're supposed to be working, but you're just kind of like, mindless, doing some mindless tasks while listening to my podcast. It's the shit. Hopefully you guys, get good recommendations out of me, and hope you guys keep enjoying my show. So yeah, thanks. And bye.